Okay, let's talk about something completely different. I just got an Intra Tech burnout oven. This is a dental operations burnout oven, and with a 4-stage ramp and soak control. Now, I was able to get this for $100 because it doesn't work. Now, this down here works. This up here, not so much. Now the little door here opens and closes. Now you might remember several years ago, I made a video about how I made a burnout oven using a microwave oven as the case. And I basically gutted all the microwaviness part out of it. And I put in some insulating wool and a heating element. But I don't really like that whole oven for the main reason because it is controlled with one of these. And I got one of these for it because it was about all I could find that was cheap, because you know I'm kind of cheap. But I hate these. First off, this is not a ramp and soak. You just put in the temperature and hit go. So when you're doing a burnout, you have to go through, well, you don't have to, I guess. Plenty of people don't go through the proper ramp and soak process. They'll just bring the temperature up and hold it for a while and call it good. But if you don't do that, the investment might not properly set. You might crack the investment. You might not fully burn out the wax or the plastic, whatever you're trying to burn out. It just might not work out well. But if you go through a proper ramp and soak process, then it'll be fine. And this, for me, is very unintuitive. And the instructions that come with these is just infuriating. Funny, but infuriating. I have a hard time figuring this out. And I figured it out just good enough to set a temperature and turn it on. Now, they do make little controllers like this that have ramp and soak cycles, but, I just really don't have the patience to learn how to do that. And I watched a few YouTube videos on people using these with a ramp and soak cycle, and they get mixed results. But this, I don't know. I just don't like these. They're not intuitive, at least in my opinion, they're not. If you use them and you like them, then that's great. But ever since I built my burnout oven, I've been looking for a ramp and soak controller like this, where you could actually see the phases. There's LEDs in here that light up along the phases. There's a big readout telling you what's going on. There's buttons for every function. This is very intuitive. And the instructions, which this did come with, it came with instructions. The instructions are very clear, very easy to follow, very easy to read, written by someone whose first language is my first language. So it's very easy for me to understand, easy for me to follow. And yes, I realize the keypad here is not in the best of shape. That really doesn't bother me at all. They do work, most of them. There's one that doesn't. I'll show you that here in a second. I could very easily just make a whole new panel with all new switches. And I'm kind of looking forward to doing something like that. But right now, this doesn't bother me. It works fine. Now, when I ordered this, like I said, I knew when I ordered it that the heating didn't work. But my plan was to get it and fix it and make it work, and then make that box bigger. Because right now, the internal dimensions of that are 6 by 6 by 5.9999. That would be, that's bigger than I thought it would be, actually. But for my flasks, my flasks won't fit. Now, I can buy flasks that will, but I have projects in mind that I will eventually work on where I'm going to need a flask bigger than this. So my first plan was, actually, I didn't know the bottom tray went up and down. I just assumed it had a door that opened up. So my first plan was to cut apart the metal box, and I assumed there was insulating fire bricks with channels grooved around for the heating element. So my plan was to take that apart, add extra fire bricks, make the box out of metal bigger, and just make a bigger box. Well, I can't really do that. There's no individual fire bricks inside. I'll show you here in a second what it looks like. So that kind of killed that plan. So right now the plan is to just fix this and get it to work. And I hope it's something like it's something really simple. like the solid state relay that controls the power to the heating element, because I got a ton of those. The solid state relays, I got probably 24 of those just sitting around waiting to be used. So it'd be nice if it was something simple and stupid like that. Now I did check the fuses. There are 2 fuses in the back. Both fuses are good. So it's not something that stupid. So I'm hoping it's just something like a loose wire or a bad relay or something like that. All of that seems to work fine. So I'm hoping it's not the controls. I'm hoping it's something simple and easy. So right now the plan is to get this to work, and then I can use it as is with some smaller flasks. But what I want to do is tap into the controls and have an extra plug coming out and have an extra switch on the side of here. And so what I could do then is remove that stupid controller from my microwave oven build and then plug this into my larger burnout oven, flip the switch, so that then controls the bigger oven instead of this. So now I kind of would have like 2 ovens. If I have a small project, I just pull this out and use this. If I need a bigger project, I can then plug in the bigger box and flip the switch, and then this would control the other one. So that's the plan for now. And one other reason I don't really like that other one, that big one, is since it is so big inside, it takes a lot longer to heat up. Also, since it is so big, it's just not as convenient to pull out of its storage spot and set it up and use it. This is a lot lighter, a lot more portable. I can just pull this out, plug it in, and use it a lot easier, a lot more conveniently. So I think I maybe don't want to modify that. Like I said, I'm just going to make it to where I can drive either that smaller heat box or my larger box. Also, I've been thinking about this recently. I need to do some more research, but I'm 90% sure that there's filaments I can get from my 3D printer that has like aluminum powder in it. And then you can put that in a kiln like this and burn out the plastic and fuse the aluminum, I think. Is that a thing? If that's a thing, let me know. I mean, I can do my own research. I could Google it. And I know there's filament that has ceramic material in it, because I saw somebody on YouTube using it, where you put it in an oven and you burn out the plastic and fuse a ceramic, and you can make ceramic parts. That could be kind of cool as well. The only problem with that is the ceramic kind of shrinks, and now your whole part becomes kind of porous, which, you know, not that big a deal, I guess. So I'm kind of interested in playing around with materials like that. But first step for this is to take it apart and figure out why it doesn't work. Now let me turn it on and show you what it does do. Notice when I turn it on, that lights up, and watch the door. So the door function does work. It does go down and it goes up. If we take a look on the inside, if we can see it, notice they're not individual fire bricks. It's like one solid ceramic hole with a heating element kind of just in there. So I don't think I'm going to be taking that apart. Well, I know I'm not going to be taking that apart. And when we look at the controls here, if we, for example, select Run Program, and I can choose, so there's a program. Now this is how it came with. So there's program 0 for hold gold, and we have program 1 for gold. And this is just a 1 phase. Now you can put up to 4 phases, or 4 steps for ramping and holding, or you could just do 1 or 2 or 3. This is just 1 stage, and it's just to bring up to temperature and hold it. And so if you hit start, do I want to delay the program? No, I don't want to delay the program. I'll just hit start. And so now it sounds like Merlin, and the door closes, and it should start heating. But again, the heating function doesn't work. So right now, it's telling me my ambient temperature. So my temp probe apparently is working. And if I select here, it'll tell me target temperature 975, actual temperature, yeah, notice the temperature is not rising. So that's what doesn't work. Now I can hit stop, and it makes the Merlin noises, and it stopped the program. I can reopen. Nope, this one's open. And that's what doesn't work. The open does not work. If I turn it off and back on, then it will open. So the actual opening function works. The motor works. I'm assuming there's end of travel limit switches that turn it on and off, so that part works. It's just that this button does not work. Now close works. I can close it. It starts closing. Press it again, it stops. All right, but open, nah, that's a no-go. So I'm hoping it's just a bad switch or a broken wire. Who knows? I'm hoping it's something simple. I'm really hoping I don't need a new control board, but I won't know until I tear into it and try to figure it out. So my first step is to take this apart and try to find out what's wrong. I'm going to do that now. I'm not going to make you watch me take it all apart. I don't know exactly how it comes apart. I mean, there's screws, so I think that's a good place to start. So I'm going to start taking it apart, and if I find something wrong, I'll get back with you and let you know what I find. So I'll get back with you here in just a second. Okay, we are back. I figured it out, but let me show you what I did, and then I'll show you what I found. First thing I did was I took the back cover off that was just held in with a few screws. Mainly just to see what was back here. It's the mechanism for raising and lowering the table, which I kind of figured. But there's a pulley down here, there's a cable, then you have your wiring connectors. So I unplugged the wire connector here to check the resistance of the heating element, and that was like 34 ohms. That seemed believable. I don't know what it's supposed to be, but that seemed believable. So I plugged that back in, figured everything back here is fine. And then I decided to take this piece off to get to the controls. Now, to take this off, you have screws here and here, same on the other side, and then there's some hidden screws under the panel or the cover here. You got to peel that back. There's a screw there, one there, and then two on the other side. And as we said, this panel is really kind of messed up, but again, like I said, that doesn't bother me any. It works as is. You know, best case scenario, I'll call a company. I don't even know if they're still in business or not, but I'll see if they have a replacement when they can send to me. Otherwise, I'm okay just leaving it as is. I mean, you can still push the buttons. Let me turn this around the other way and I'll show you what I found when I took this cover off. Okay, so once all the screws are out, this just pulls out, and I put it back to the way it was when I found it. So you're going to see exactly what I saw. Now, I'm not going to point out the problem to you right away. I want to see how quickly you can find it. And I'll walk you through my process of looking, and I'll point it out to you at the time I saw it. So anyways, when you pull this out, oh, also keep in mind, that button didn't do anything. This is for raising and lowering the table here. This button worked, that would make it go up. This button did nothing. So when you pull this out, fortunately, the wires are plenty long enough. There's plenty of slack in it. This harness right here goes to the power switch, and I tried pulling it out here, but I'd have to mark, there's 4 wires, I'd have to mark all of those. It was just easier to reach back here and unplug this. So that was nice and easy. And this cable here going to the panel, this cable unplugs nice and easy. So then you can take this and get it out of the way. We'll get back to that panel later. So inside, just to point out a few obvious things, there's the motor that raises and lowers the tables, there's your speaker, there's your processor. Behind this panel right here, kind of hard to see, I don't know if I can get a good view, but behind that panel, that is your solid state relay. That's what turns on the power for the heating element. And this is one of my suspects of being faulty. And I have a bunch of those. These 2 connectors here, that's going to be your low voltage DC turning it on. And then it's soldered onto the board there to make the continuity for the heating. And notice there's a screw head broken right here. There's a screw right there. The head is broken off. That's how it was when I found it. There's another screw over here. I don't know how well we can see that. There's another screw there. That screw is fine. And there's a nut there, and where the power plugs in, there's screws coming in from the back side into that aluminum block here that kind of clamp the plug connectors on. I also noticed there's a fuse right there, the glass fuse. And right here, there's a slow blow fuse. It says on the board, 15 amp slow blow fuse. Now, in the posting, when I looked at this on eBay, the posting said that nothing worked. They checked all the fuses. They replaced one of the fuses, and then the front panel lit up, but the heater still never worked. So when they told me that, I just thought that they checked the fuses that you get access to on the back side. On the back side, you can undo and pull out 2 fuses. Well, again, there's another fuse here and another fuse here. And when I saw that broken off screw head right there, I then thought, well, they pulled this apart to check that fuse here, because the only way to check that fuse is to pull the whole circuit board out, because that motor's in the way to pull the fuse out the side. I don't know how well we can see it with my bad lighting here, but yeah. So I'm thinking they pulled the board out to check the fuse, and they broke that screw head off, but still the heater doesn't work. And it was at this point that I realized why it doesn't work. How many of you have already seen it a couple of minutes ago? Take a look at this. Guess where that goes? That goes through here up to the top to the heating element. That was unplugged. That was just sitting here loose, unplugged. And the circuit board is written on here, heater power, and that does just plug in like that. So now I'm thinking, okay, connectors don't just come off by themselves. Connectors don't just unplug themselves. So I'm thinking, well, probably what happened was they pulled the circuit board out to check the fuses, and they just forgot to plug that back in. So I just continued. I went ahead, I pulled that circuit board out. You got to unplug it from the main board here as well. And then the screws and obviously that connector. And it comes right out, pretty easy to come out. I checked that slow blow fuse. It was perfectly fine. So that kind of made me think, okay, well, they replaced that fuse and they just forgot to plug that back in. Because if that fuse is blown, the heater's not going to work because it's for the heating element. So I'm thinking is they replaced that fuse and forgot to plug it back in. But I went ahead and visually checked the relay behind that panel. Visually, it looked fine. It did not look overheated or melted or warped. That does not mean it works, but it just means it's not definitely fried. And so I plugged that in, I put it all back together, and what do you know? It works perfectly fine. So it's a little dusty in here. It's a little dirty. I might clean some of that up before I put it back together. So this thing works. Last I checked, there's 2 more of these on eBay. One of them they want $1,200. The other one they want $1,400. So I got theoretically speaking, I got a $1,200 furnace for $100. A part of me kind of feels bad for the seller, but I guess that's kind of the risk you take, because I was taking a risk. I was risking $100 buying something that didn't work. I mean, it's very possible that whole board could have been completely fried and no parts available, so I would have been out $100. And I'm sure I've been on the opposite of that, where I sold something valuable for very cheap and someone else was able to get it to work, So it's just kind of the risk you take, I guess. But I have no idea I have no idea what the story is. Did that somehow just, maybe at the factory, they didn't plug it in all the way and over time it just wiggled its way out? I mean, I have no clue. Why would that screw head be broken if nobody else was in there messing around before me? So I don't know what the story is, but it works. So I'm very pleased. So, and remember the button here, the down button that does not work? I put a multimeter on it. When I put the multimeter on the up button and I press it, I get the beep noise, meaning that it works. So I just, verified the button operation. So I tried that on the down button and I got no continuity. That down button itself is completely dead. I was a little concerned that there might have been a problem with the board here seeing the input from the down button or being able to process that input, but that's fine. It's the button itself. I went on eBay. I ordered a pack of 25 buttons for like $5. So as soon as I get those buttons in, I'll replace the button on the front panel. Then that should work perfectly fine. Then I'll have this thing perfectly operational, perfectly working. So, as I said earlier, what I plan on doing with this is I'm going to make a connector, either on the back or on the side, with a switch to select this heater box or to select my bigger heater box. So what I'll do, I'll tie into these wires right here that control that relay, the solid state relay, and I'll tap off of those to the switch, and where the temperature probes come in, I think it's these maybe, or these. I got to find what, no, that's for the motor. So I got to find the wires for the temperature probe coming back here, and I'll do the same thing. I'll split the temperature probe wires off. So again, when I flip it to the big box, this will be monitoring the temperature probe on the big box and controlling the solid state relay for the big box. And then if I flip the switch the other way, then it'll just be controlling this way. And I can unplug the big box from this one so I don't have to drag them both out together. So that's the plan for this. All of those modifications and replacing the push button will be in another video. I'm not going to replace the push button on this video because it'll probably still be another week before I get it. So for now, this video's done. This is done. This works. I'm very happy. I got a working burnout oven for $100, and so I'm just going to stop talking. So anyways, until next time, as always, thanks for watching.